Hey, this is Alex with The Gadgeteer. I am reviewing Obsbot's Tiny 2 webcam with AI and gesture control. I reviewed a previous version of this product about 2 years ago. Then they released a 4K version last year, and this is the updated number 2 version of the 4K camera. New this time around is a new form factor. It looks a little bit more squared off, looks kind of fresh. And then the the webcam app has come a long way, and there's a ton of features. So many, in fact, that this thing now has 4 tabs, and you have to scroll on every tab. For some reason, they have limited the pixel size of the window. You can't grow it past a certain point. And so no matter what you do, some of the features you may need may be a tab over, and then you have to scroll. So not great, but all of what's there is pretty interesting. So first and foremost, I want to show you a couple things. So like before, there are a couple of key gestures that you can do to duplicate what there's a button for in the app. So here is zoom. So this zooms in to amount you set. I set it to 2 times zoom, or roughly thereabout. Repeating the feature again, unzooms. Very, very cool. This is a way to lock and turn on tracking. So now you'll see it as following my head as I move around, and I have it set to track my face. Also a very, very cool feature. I'm going to turn that back off again with the same gesture. Sometimes you do have to hold the gesture a little bit longer to make sure that it read. You're able to tell by a big light bar that's at the bottom of the webcam. So it's green right now when I'm not tracking. It goes blue when it is tracking, and it blinks when it sees that I'm doing a gesture that it's trying to recognize. So as long as you're looking in the right spot, which luckily is right next to the camera, you can know that it's succeeded or not succeeded. And the fact that it's right next to the camera means your eyes are kind of where they need to be, those are all good things. I've turned on presets. So I have a 0 preset. When I click on that, this is my go-to. This is where I normally keep it. And this is fixed. One thing that you'll notice is a lot of times zoom may not follow some of these switches. So you might switch from one mode to another and the zoom stays where it was, which can be weird. But here, this is 0. I have a setting for my whiteboard behind me. So if I click on my whiteboard button, it goes to my whiteboard. I work with, and you can see I was watching The Witcher there. How about that? Go back to 0. I work with some coworkers where it is easier for me to sketch badly to communicate what I'm doing, and I can use that little button, stand up, and go over there and work down and get my communication across a lot cleaner, a lot faster, and it's definitely better than me going, I'll send you a sketch in a minute. So very, very handy to be able to do that in one go. A couple other features. There is a hand tracking. So if I turn on hand, this is built to track my right hand, and I can basically point where I want, and it will follow my hand. What's weird is when you go to turn hand off, which usually means you have to go down to your mouse, it's going to typically move. That was pretty good. So I'll go back. There it goes, jumps. So I'll turn hand mode back off, and now you can see the zoom was a little bit weird. So if I click to 0, back here. So a lot of using this webcam is a learning process and finding out what works and what doesn't and what's likely to cause a scenario. So there's a lot of experimentation, but the amount of power this webcam has is pretty awe-inspiring, and there's a ton of what's possible here. Anyway, one of the cooler features that you'll see is called desk mode. And if I click on desk mode, this camera is going to tilt down, and it's going to show my desk. You do want to set that up because otherwise, if your mount is flat, it turns down at an angle, and you're going to get desk, and you're going to get a whole lot of your shorts and midsection. And it's not very flattering. So if you tilt your monitor mount forward and then you set your pan and tilt in the settings, you can get it to be a little bit better. So I'm going to go to desk mode now, and it basically straight down, and then it's also digitally flattening this image. So I can put my hands into play here, and you can see I can move. I could be drawing on my iPad, show somebody. I could be doing a fix it or a tear down, and how things need to go together. Pretty darn cool. So I'm going to go back to 0, turn on desk mode. And one of the challenges that I have is that in 4K, which I'm in right now, as soon as I go into desk mode, the amount of processing that's going on creates this huge lag. So as I'm talking to you, and even when I was in desk mode, there was about a 4-second delay of what I was doing and even what I'm saying right now, which is not cool. There's also no way to change that setting in the app on the main pages. You have to turn on the video preview. And if I click right now into the video preview where it says 4K and change that to 1080p, I bet you it's going to disconnect the camera because of the power blip. Yeah, so that blip was basically QuickTime said, hey, camera went away, I'm going to stop the recording. So that's probably why if you are recording in the webcam app from Obsbot, it will not let you change that setting. But if you're in another app, that setting is available, although you have to have that second preview window open to do it. So know your settings, but more importantly than that, realize that 4K, and especially some of these AI features like desk mode, where it is tilting down, you're getting a keystone image and it's flattening it live, if you will. That takes a lot of processing power. I'm on an M1 MacBook, the first gen version, and it cannot keep up with that. So for me to use any of the AI features in this webcam, I have to keep it in 1080p, which is not why I bought the 4K, why I would buy the 4K version, right? You want that nice image. So that's that. Similarly, as I mentioned, having to tilt this webcam forward, this is another one. This is a gesture control where two of these allow you to more fine-tune control the zoom. So I've had a couple of those happen too, where I'm trying to just gesture to you, not to my camera, and the camera starts responding. That happened to me taking a sip the other day. I did this with a drink. Next thing I know, it's zooming in on me. So gesture, just take it or leave it, right? It's something that's there. The good part is you have buttons for almost all of these features in the app. And if you have that app right next to your window, you can click and make these adjustments while effectively still staring at your camera and staying on screen. So those are really, really good features. Where I was going, though, is that because this camera is tilted forward to enable desk view, it creates a little bit of an issue now when I go to tracking mode and stand up. So if I'm in normal tracking now and I back up and I stand up, as long as I stay kind of straight on, this is pretty good. But as soon as I start going too far left or too far right, you're going to get that seesaw motion because it's adjusting a horizontal gimbal on a tilted surface. So that gets a little bit weird. If I flatten it out, tilt the camera back down up there, that will go away. But then I will get the other result where when I turn on desk view, you're seeing things you don't want to see. And that's also part of the next problem of anything below the tracking buttons here. Upper body, headless, lower body, they just tilt down in ways that I don't think anybody's really going to use. Hey, I'm back here recording in 1080p this time to avoid some of the lag issues that I see when I'm in the higher resolution. But a couple things I wanted to cover. On the More page of the Obsbot app, this is where you can adjust some of your features like turning on and off auto sleep, adjusting some of the settings that you see when it's sleeping, turning on and off gesture control. So all of those things, if you don't want to mess with it, you can turn them all off here. There's also voice control. So these are kind of interesting. Zoom in closer. No. Tiny. Zoom in closer. There we go. Zoom out further. Tiny. Zoom out further. Gesture control is weird, as is voice control. So you're either showing people things and they're saying, what are you doing? Or you're saying things and they're saying, are you talking to me? So you have to play with both of those evils to understand if this is something you will use live or not. And I can't really answer that question for you. It's a personal preference. So very cool. A ton of technology goes into making that stuff work. But is it going to be used in your day-to-day on a Zoom, especially with people you've never talked to before, like a first meeting? Probably not. So tough to answer that. Further down on this page, you can set your initial position. I've done that in one of the presets instead, so I can click a box and it's good. Too often, your webcam gets bumped and changes position a little bit, or worse yet, you're traveling with it, and every time you set it up, it's a little bit different. So the initial position doesn't work so much for me as setting a preset where I know I get it right and then things work. But again, that's my preference. You can adjust some of the microphone settings, image flip, all those things here. One of the parts I did want to talk to all of you about is this tab they have in here called Beauty. And there's a lot loaded in that term. It is where background blur is hiding. I feel like background blur should be on the main page because it's something you're going to use very frequently all the time. This is 25% blur. You can turn it on and off. It does a really good job of working well. Just note that if you are, like I was doing a QuickTime recording earlier, some of these features didn't translate into the camera view for QuickTime. So you may need to make sure that your app that you're using, whether it's Zoom or something else, supports all of these added features. So whether that's a plugin, whether that's something else, you'll have to dive into that a little bit more. There's a lot of learning here. But the rest of this Beauty page is kind of interesting in that kind of way, I guess. So there's 3 settings under retouch: native, classic, and men. So I have it off right now. This is men. So a little bit of just a complexion clearance. Okay. Back off again. This is native. You actually saw my face get a little bit more slender and clear. Off again. And then classic. Really kind of tweaked in and my face got brighter. So these are interesting settings. They feel a little loaded the way they're named. Anyway, what's more loaded is the next section. This is called body shape. And there's 6 settings: body slim, leggy, legs, waist, shoulder, and head. All of them, this is a little strange. I'm going to flip over to console real quick and get narrow so that my face is a little more closer. Back to Beauty. And now I'm going to slide head from 0 to 100. Ready? My head just got smaller. And you would imagine that's the same thing that happens to all those other settings. So back to 0%. It's a little weird to me that all these settings don't start at the midpoint and allow you to adjust both directions. They all start at 0 and allow you to reduce. Enough said. State of the affairs of the world, I guess. Filters. There's a bunch of cool filters down here. Nature, clear, crystal, sheer, black and white. And then you can adjust how black and white with the slider. Pretty cool. And all those have an adjustable setting. I'll turn those back off. So anyway, that's kind of where those are. Hopefully you've enjoyed this review. I think that best thing I can do is just tell you, dive in as much as you can as to if this will work for you. Even if you leave a lot of these AI gesture control features out and just use the clickable buttons on the main console, this camera is really, really good. The image is great. The microphone sounds good. At least I've been told by the people that I'm chatting with. And the tracking is top notch. So I can't recommend it enough. I will say, be a little wary of the gesture and the voice actions and things like that, because using them may not really fall into your day-to-day or in a usable fashion, right? If I'm on a Zoom with people, doing this, people are asking me, what are you doing? And as you saw, it just didn't work again. So those are the things that can be frustrating. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and read the whole written review at the-gadgeteer.com. Thanks.